Welcome to Impact Africa. Support for Impact Africa comes from Our Financial Coach, ranked among America's 11 best financial coaches on the web at ourfinancialcoach.com. United 4Kids Foundation, committed to healing the world one child at a time. On the web at united4kidsfoundation.org. Frad Consulting, planning and designing services where you are always in good company. On the web at fradconsulting.com. And from Outside in HR, pointing great companies to the future of successful HR. On the web at outsideinhrng.com. And from Wiser Advisory, Africa's leading financial advisory, training and outsourcing services firm. On the web at wiseradvisory.com. And from Nextier, the leading public sector advisory firm focused on agriculture, power, and petroleum. On the web at nextierlimited.com. And from Data Century Limited. And from Total Ascent, empowering individuals and organizations to achieve their educational and career goals. On the web at total-ascent.com. And from Brave Little Heroes, helping kids discover their inner awesome. On the web at bravelittleheroes.com. To support Impact Africa, please visit our website, impactafricaonline.com. Welcome to Impact Africa. Africa has long been associated with needing aid and handouts. Today, you'll learn so much more about this wonderful continent from enlightening stories, people, and ideas. Now, here is your host, Tope Fajingbesi.
Good morning and welcome to Impact Africa. We apologize for the late start of the show today, but we will make it up. It's going to be a very interesting show and one that's going to be really inspiring. And hopefully you can get a thing or two from today's show. And the most important thing that we hope that you get from today's show is that you would realize that you can do something. Very often we Africans in diaspora always complain about the state of affairs in Africa. We just think things don't work well, especially with the education sector, which is going to be the focus of discussion with my guest today. And we're going to be discussing how you can make a change in those sectors. With me this morning is Sylvia Baffour. She's the co-founder of College Shine Incorporated. And College Shine makes recruiting process more efficient for African students. And it also helps U.S. colleges and universities to recruit the best and make this recruitment process really easy. Sylvia has lived in 6 African countries. I actually originally thought she was from Ghana. Then I thought when I was reading her bio, oh, maybe she's from Kenya, but this morning I cleared up. She is from Ghana. Sylvia, welcome to Impact Africa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And, I'm really, really impressed about this line of work that you're in, trying to get in the middle of this whole process of African students coming here. Because I came to the U.S. as an international student. So it's like getting married to somebody you just met on a blind date. It is a very important decision, a very important investment, but it's something that is just very difficult to ascertain. So how did you get into this? What motivated you to do this?
Well, as a former international student myself, I understand all too well the difficult journey in preparing for U.S. colleges and deciding on where to go among the 3,000 or so schools available. And so I was a regional director for a private college planning firm, and I did presentations around the Northeast on college prep for American parents and their kids. And after 3 years, I decided to find a way to focus more on the African students who are preparing to come to school in the U.S. and learning as much as they can about all the opportunities available to them, even for the ones who don't always think they can afford an overseas education.
Oh, absolutely. And as you're talking, I'm just thinking I need to introduce you to one of the sponsors of Impact Africa, Total Ascent. they're in Nigeria and they prepare students for GMAT, GRE, and prepare them to come here.
Okay.
So I think it will also be very influential if you can get those students over there.
Yes.
And to, while they're preparing for the test scores, you can actually help them prepare for other things in terms of, choosing the schools. Because I remember that when I came to the US, in 2001, before I came, I got admitted into 2 colleges. And I think they're great colleges. But now that I look back, I wouldn't have fit in. Those are 2 cities that I don't want to leave. It's St. Louis, Missouri, and Boston, Massachusetts. Okay. Eventually, things didn't work out. And I eventually went to Emory in Atlanta. And looking back, I think that was just the best fit. But it just tells you how complicated the process is to just try and get here beyond the test scores. So I think it would be nice to get there. But what was your own experience like when you were coming into the US?
Well, I was actually preparing for college with my twin brother, and my older brother had gone to William and Mary in Virginia, which is a very competitive school, a year or 2 before us. And I wanted to go to William and Mary as well. But thankfully, my twin brother didn't have good enough grades to get into William and Mary. So he got accepted at James Madison, and my father wanted to keep us in the same school. And you talk about best fit, because we were looking at schools in Virginia from a thick book. I mean, that was our experience, and that was the planning. And it was only because of learning about William and Mary through my older brother that I knew it wouldn't be a good fit for me, because it was too academically focused, not enough of the social balance. Some kids need to balance social with academic, or else they won't thrive and succeed. And so that was part of my reason in co-founding College Shine, was to say, I want to help students make better decisions about where they're going. It's not just about where you end up, because you're going to be there for 4 years. It's going to be your full-time job, and you want to make sure it's a happy home.
And I definitely am seeing myself back in college in America and seeing all that confusion. But you work with several African countries, and I see lots of breadth here, at least across West and East Africa: Nigeria, Tanzania, Ghana, Ethiopia, and Kenya. This is where the US has got most of its African students from. I was reading one of the reports that there are about 30,000 sub-Saharan African students actively studying in the US. That's a lot. And one of the arguments that you hear from people is that, okay, why are you helping people to come here? Why are you fostering the brain drain? Why can't we take that tuition that all these African students are paying the US schools and take it back to developed schools in Africa? What's your take on that?
Well, I think there's 2 schools of thought on that. But at the end of the day, parents want the best education for their children. And sometimes parents who can afford an overseas education cannot afford for the governments in some of these African countries to get their minds right and start to invest in the infrastructure and the educational system. So just because a parent has money and they're willing to spend it on overseas education doesn't mean they should throw that back into their African country, because they would be sacrificing their kids' future. They won't see change in that short time that they decide to. And plus, the money often gets misappropriated anyway. So I think it's not a matter of brain drain, because one of the things we do with College Shine is we also keep track of our students and encourage them to go back and invest in their home countries once they're done with the U.S. education. And we do that by connecting with school companies like jobsinghana.com that actively looks for talent that was educated overseas to bring them back, work in the oil industries and different things like that. So these kids are coming to overseas anyway for an education. We're just helping direct them to make the right choice, and then encourage them, once they have the education, to find a way to get back and help out in their local countries.
And honestly, you made a very valid point. They will come anyway. So how about we make it efficient? How about we make it effective?
Yes.
I just met a Nigerian international student. She's probably maybe 18. She arrived last week. This is all college resumption season. And she's going to a school in Indiana. And I said, Indiana? Do you know how cold it is? And do you know there are no black people in Indiana? So maybe perhaps if she had met you, maybe she might have chosen another school, if she had more information. But I think that's very interesting. I want to ask you one question, though. One of the problems that international students face here is the issue of financing. Student loans is a big problem. And I've noticed a lot of predatory lending practices among so many schools, especially the prominent schools in the US, where they are allegedly getting incentives from Sallie Mae to co-sign loans for international students. So they graduate from school and they have 14%, 15% interest. So there you are trying to get a job, and they're telling you you're a foreign student, you have no visa, or you want to go back to your country and you're thinking, how would I service a dollar denominated loan with Naira, salary? So, but if we knew more about scholarships process and about free education, that is definitely possible, I think people will be in a better shape. What's your experience with scholarships?
I think it's sad because there's so much funding here in America, but you have to know what you're looking for. You can't just randomly be Googling things. There are a lot of colleges that have money that goes unspent at the end of the year, that just goes into their pool of endowments, because a college is a business, and we always have to remember that, and they will only give a student as much as it takes for that student to say, yes, I'm coming to your school, not a penny more. So if a school could have given you $20,000 a year and you only essentially were aware of 10,000, they now have an extra 10,000 to woo another student to their school. So you really have to do your research. Once you figure out the schools you're interested in, you really have to dig to find out what merit aid packages they have. And you have to focus on things like an SAT score and your grades. I did the International Baccalaureate, IB, and I actually got a half a year off. And this was 15 plus years ago, because it translates directly into dollars. So students in Africa preparing should be very mindful of their SAT scores, their grades, and then researching all the merit aid packages available at the school. You don't just apply randomly and assume schools will give you a scholarship because you got in.
Yeah.
You need to kind of do some research in advance. And I don't know when you'd like me to mention the MasterCard Foundation
Please.
Scholarship.
Yeah.
But MasterCard has partnered with about 10 institutions, 2 in Africa, African Leadership Academy in South Africa, and Ashesi University, which is the only liberal arts college in Ghana, in Africa. And they've been tasked with bringing 10,000 African students to overseas universities.
10,000.
10,000 on a full ride. So this means down to your airfare, to the duvet covers that are going to be on your bed when you get on campus, your meals, everything, transportation is paid for by this foundation. And every year, some Africans do get awarded that. The only stipulation is you can't be from a wealthy family. You have to show need, and you have to show some exceptional uniqueness and desire to want to come back to Africa and help contribute to the economies.
I think that is excellent because, honestly, there are 2 very critical points that you've mentioned here, which is the colleges are businesses. They will not give you more than they can give you. And if they can hold their money and you pay them, why should they give you money in the first instance?
Exactly.
And many of the US colleges are trying to compete one way or the other for some sort of ranking. So if you get a very high SAT score and somebody else is, just coasting on the SAT, why should they give you money when they can woo the other person to make their ranking, big?
Exactly.
So we need to begin to think about those kind of things. And we're competing with people who start hearing about SATs from their freshman year in high school.
Exactly.
And so you see a Nigerian child who has finished high school and a US high school graduate competing for the same space in the same college. Meanwhile, one has had 4 years to prepare and you just had 1 or 2 years to prepare. So we need to be on this A game. And also the issue of this 10,000 students coming with MasterCard. How can any African student who is listening to this or watching this get their hands on this?
Yes, well, their website, I believe, is mastercardfoundation.org, or you can just Google MasterCard Foundation Scholarship Program, and you'll read up on it. In fact, I think the application deadline is coming up in January, February for the students who are going to be entering the fall of 2015. And so read up on it, and we have some information on College Shine's website as well, but as a student, you'd have to create a profile. It doesn't cost anything to do that. And then once you get into the scholarship section, you can look at all the different schools that are offering the scholarship. We have a direct link to the site where you'd be applying and kind of the background information on that. But I encourage every student whose parents are not wealthy from Africa to apply for the MasterCard Foundation Scholarship. But remember, you're going to have to write an essay. You have to show that you're unique and exceptional, which you are, but you have to show it on paper.
And and that is one thing that we don't do very much of. We don't show. One of my challenges when I came to America is that in Nigeria, where I'm from, when you don't talk. It's supposed to be empty barrels making the most noise. But then I got to America and I was in college and class participation is 40% of the grade. So whether you know or you don't know, you have to say something. So we're not used to, culturally, we're not built to toot our own horns. But that doesn't work here.
No, you have to speak up.
You have to speak up. Okay, so if you're listening, if you're watching, you better speak up.
Yes.
10,000 students, full ride, airfare. Can I just go back to college?
I know, right? Yeah, I mean, kids are getting $70,000 a year towards their education.
You know,
everything paid for, including the airfare from Africa.
Wow, that is awesome. So, you have the genuine need in terms of your parents are not wealthy. You have got the skill set. And don't forget, you have to show the skills. And you also have got, the interest, the talent, and everything it takes to be here. MasterCard Foundation, find it. And then collegeshine.com, is that your website?
Yes, collegeshine.com.
Collegeshine.com. But before I let you go, I need to talk about you. So you're some type of superstar because you placed top 10 in this world's speaking competition. That is awesome. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it was certainly an honor to be part of it. Toastmasters International, which is a speaking organization around the world with about 4,000 clubs globally, is to me the cheapest way that any human being can improve themselves as a speaker. And I'm talking about just your confidence speaking in front of anyone, because the reality is any speaking that takes place outside the privacy of your own home is public speaking.
Absolutely.
Whether
like this
we know
one.
it or not. Like this.
One.
And as students are positioning themselves for interviewing and jobs and all of that stuff, we all need that. And so Toastmasters runs a contest once a year, and they crown the world champion of public speaking for 2014 or whatever year it may be. And usually you have 35,000 people competing from 127 countries. And they dwindle that down until you get to the final 90. And this year, 90 of us competed in the semifinals in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur. And then the top 9 went on to compete for the World Championship.
Wow. 35,000 and then and you were there in Malaysia?
Yes. So
wow. So but how did you get into public speaking? Because like I said, this is not culturally our way. And I know you are a daughter of Africa because you've lived in 6 African countries. So
yes.
But for you to then be here where we don't speak to now where you're speaking and in front of big crowds, what sparked your interest? Like, how did you find this path?
Yeah, well, I got certified as a life coach 15 years ago, and I needed to gain confidence with going out there to sell myself and build a practice. And like you said, African girls, we are taught to be sort of humble and quiet, and that wasn't going to cut it. I once heard someone say that no great success will ever happen to you in your comfort zone. And my comfort zone was to be quiet and shy and inclusive. And so someone encouraged me to join Toastmasters International, which is a very, very inexpensive way, $30 every 6 months or something, to improve speaking. And I've just been consistent and diligently attending meetings and creating speeches, and you get formally evaluated. So I would encourage any African who would like to improve their speaking in any way to join Toastmasters. It is really the most efficient and inexpensive way to get formal feedback and keep growing and improving, because that's going to help you when you get to college, when you're looking for a job and competing with the rest of the people who are going overseas or just.
That's very interesting, and that's very impressive. I'm really glad. Before I let you go, I just want to talk about your background again. So what are you? Kenyan, Ghanaian?
I'm from
Botswana?
Ghana. I am from Ghana. I lived in those places, but I am from Ghana.
Okay, because I looked at the last name. I'm like, I'm Nigerian, so we know the Ghanaian names. I said, this is. But you lived around. How did that experience shape you?
It shaped me in important ways. One, it allowed me to acquire languages from other parts of Africa, and I think people overseas think all of us in Africa are the exact same people.
Oh,
and we're
well,
not.
Don't get me started on that one.
Right? And so it helped me in that it allowed me early on in life to understand how to blend with people from a different mindset or different background. Being in Botswana and having people expect me to speak Setswana when I was just fresh to the country, it causes you to rise up and try to learn everything you can to help make it in that society. And I think that's a good experience wherever possible for students, people in Africa, to travel within the continent and learn about other people's cultures and languages and cuisines and all of that. It just makes you a better person. Yes.
That sounds like something I would want to learn. Cuisines, yes, food. Yes. But I think I think your background and what you're doing currently, spanning this very key African countries is very important, because one of the things that I always talk about on this show is that it's easier for Nigeria to talk to the US, for Kenya to talk to London, for Ghana to talk to, Paris. But it's so hard for Nigeria to talk to Uganda. We're not connected with ourselves. We're connected more with foreigners. And this is really definitely one of the experiences that we should aim for, to live across other countries and to learn other cultures, so that we can even educate those people here about the differences and the similarities of Africa. So thank you so much. I think you're doing a wonderful job. And I will definitely put you in touch with Total Accent. You're already in touch with Invisible Neighbors, right?
Yes, I am.
Yes. And then AfricanDevJobs.com as well.
Okay.
For those who want to go back.
Exactly.
The lady who runs it, she's also Ghanaian. She's fantastic. And that is one hub for African development jobs. So, thank you so much once again. And we wish you all the best, and we'll be in touch about Impact Africa.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
Same here. So you're still watching and listening to Impact Africa. We'll be right back after this quick break. Thank you so much for coming.
Okay.
Support for Impact Africa comes from Our Financial Coach, ranked among America's 11 best financial coaches on the web at ourfinancialcoach.com. United 4Kids Foundation, committed to healing the world one child at a time. On the web at unitedforkidsfoundation.org. Frad Consulting, planning and designing services where you are always in good company. On the web at fradconsulting.com. And from Outside in HR, pointing great companies to the future of successful HR. On the web at outsideinhrng.com. And from Wiser Advisory, Africa's leading financial advisory, training and outsourcing services firm. On the web at wiseradvisory.com. And from Nextier, the leading public sector advisory firm focused on agriculture, power, and petroleum. On the web at nextierlimited.com. And from Data Century Limited. And from Total Ascent, empowering individuals and organizations to achieve their educational and career goals. On the web at total-ascent.com. And from Brave Little Heroes, helping kids discover their inner awesome. On the web at bravelittleheroes.com. To support Impact Africa, please visit our website, impactafricaonline.com. You are listening to Impact Africa. To connect with the program, please call 1-443-499-2755. That's 1-443-499-2755. You may also send an email to info@impactafricaonline.com or tweet @UImpactAfrica. Now, back to our show.
Yes. Welcome back to Impact Africa. And if you can't tell, I have a supermodel here with me. Sitting beside me, Miss Viola Tebah. And I also have on the phone Tes Akinsipe. Tes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so I'm going to introduce Tes first. And Tes is with Millions4One. They volunteer-run grassroots movement tackling direct problems in African schools and communities. Their current focus is Nigeria, and they started in September 2009. Tes, welcome to Impact Africa.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And then I will introduce my supermodel guest in the studio, Miss Viola Tebah. She's an international model for real, and she's a special assistant to the Dean of Business at Copen State University, a native of Ghana, and the founder of Tebah Educational Initiative. And welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so I'm going to start with you, Viola.
Hey.
It's so good to see you. And I remember that you and I met at the White House.
Right.
And I was like, who is this young girl and what's she doing? And when I went to read about what you're trying to do with the initiative, I was super impressed. You're here, you work here, you're no longer in Ghana. Why are you so interested in what is happening back there?
Thank you. Yes. I actually grew up in Ghana, by the way, so I certainly know how the education system is in back home or in Africa countries. I live in Ghana, so I can speak for many African countries because it's similar.
Yes.
But growing up in Ghana, it was a little different coming to America because, the challenges that you face as a student is way different. Here it's so easy because you have the resources. You know, teachers are here to support you. But when you go back home, it's not the same. So definitely it gave me, I mean, just living here, getting the opportunity to come to this far, I certainly wanted to do something back in my country. So it gave me that courage.
And that is wonderful. How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing it for a year now.
For a year?
Yes.
You know what?
I have a long way to go. But
yeah, no, but you're on the right path. This is awesome. And Tess, I want to ask you, what started this movement? Because I like how you all describe yourself, that it's a grassroots movement. What started the movement?
Hi, hello.
Hello. Yes,
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. So this started the book. You know, one time we were thinking, okay, we're not, and of course we don't have a meeting, but at the same time the problems exist in Nigeria. So,
Tess, can Tess? We're having problems hearing you. Are we on speakerphone?
No, you're not.
Okay, we were having problems hearing you.
Okay. Not sure why that.
Okay, it's a bit better now. So
Okay,
let's try this
better
again.
now?
Yes, let's try this again. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So we kind of started from thinking about what can we all do collectively to make a change like Nigeria and Africa. So we're thinking about, we don't have a balance right now. We all do. I can all put them together. So that's that's where it came from. So we kind of just looked around our friends and families and people that work there and just say, hey guys, we know we can make the education here. How can we do this without putting so much work on ourselves?
Well, we're going to try. I'm hoping that you can get better reception in some other part, because we are really having issues hearing you. If
Okay.
yes, we're going to try and disconnect this and get you back. If you can get to a place of better reception, maybe perhaps we can try this again.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, but meanwhile, I would continue with you, Viola. So 80%, 86% of majority of what you do is with STEM projects. Why STEM? You're not a scientist, so why did you choose science? And
definitely not a scientist. I did accounting. But STEM is focused on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And I believe that right now, Africa, I hear people say Africa is a rising. Africa has arose years ago. We need to stop saying that. Let's correct that. But when we look into Africa, there's no infrastructure, lots of infrastructure. And healthcare system. So we want to kind of encourage our students to focus in those areas, whether it's going into science. I'm not saying implementing that students should just choose a career path in those areas, but we definitely want to see more future leaders around those areas, like whether it's science, scientists, engineering, because we all have to be able to manufacture our own products.
Absolutely.
Talking about business, building of industries. So
Yes.
those are the kind of areas we have to focus on. That's why I focus a lot about STEM, And
I honestly thought Ghana was more advanced when it comes to science, technology. You all are the ones who have the Science and Technology University, one of the few that we have in Africa. So I think definitely there's room for improvement, but the country is already in a good direction. Yes. But let me see if I have Tess back. Tess, are you back with us?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, all right. Hopefully this
now?
will. Yes, it's better now. So let's talk about, you all are volunteer run, volunteer driven, but you all are in America, right?
Yes.
Okay, so and there's always the issue of integrity. People are like, there's on one side, there's how do you know that what you're getting from Nigeria is legitimate? How do you know that what they're telling you is true? And on the other side, people are looking at you. How do I know that Tess is not spending my money trying to live large in Houston or wherever he's living? So how do you manage this?
All right. Just like first of all, we have a set of something system that would to kind of guide it, God and you to know we're dealing a situation where we be very careful. So first thing we're doing is we do not give to any school, any organization, any school principal. We do not give a tax one. So we have.
It's really a challenge. I think maybe after the break we'll try and see if we can get him again. Hopefully, because they have lots of interesting things to share with us. So I'm hoping that we can get him back. But let's go ahead and talk to you. So how often do you have to go back to Ghana?
Well, I was there for 3 months this year.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for. It's gonna be every
3
year.
months.
3 months. Yeah. 3 months. Just working with schools.
Oh, that's. But how do you primarily get your funding and? Because this takes, if you have to go to Ghana for 3 months, you need some money to do that.
Yes. So since we just started, you have to go through the registration process as a non-for-profit organization, which of course we're working on. But mainly, I did a pageant. So right after the pageant, I used that platform to raise funds.
Fantastic.
And then it helped me to go back to Ghana for that 3 months.
Fantastic.
And start encouraging the students and putting my platform out there.
And I saw some pictures. I really like that. So, and I want to go to that pageant issue. So there's this whole, every time you see a beauty queen on television or on the internet, it's somebody with beauty but no brains. But for you to be doing what you're doing, I feel like, this is the combination of both. Mm-hmm. So do you, first of all, get this stereotype? You're trying to tell people, I competed in the Miss Ghana USA pageant, and they're already switching off that, oh my God, what's she talking about?
Even when you see your model.
Yes. So, how do you deal with that stereotype? And, do you even concern yourself with that, or you just go ahead and do your business?
I just go ahead and do my business, because this is not about beauty and all of that. It's about what can you really do to impact artists. Mm-hmm. So that's my main goal. I'm not here to just, brush up my hair and look all cute and all of that. I mean, I can look cute, but it's about business. Mm-hmm. What are we doing to improve our nation? And then I believe the Miss Ghana USA is looking for a Ghanaian young woman who has knowledge into Ghana education, building the economy, and also you can look pretty as well if you want to. So it's all about minding my own business and getting the work done.
Absolutely. And but does this help you to raise money in any way? Is there an addition? Is there a positive part to being a beauty queen?
Definitely. That's a positive part, because we all know that pageant is just not all about we all definitely know the pageant is not all about the beauty. You mm-hmm. have to, it's about charity, mm-hmm. doing something positive within your community or serving your nation. Mm-hmm. So definitely it kind of contributes to that. So you can definitely use that platform to raise funds.
That's interesting. So now, one of the things that you all are trying to do is to have some sort of mentoring relationship. Mm-hmm. And we, our organization, United for Kids Foundation, we also do this kind of things, and we're about to do one with Baltimore City schools. But I then thought about it. I said, why can't we do between African countries? Where Ghanaian students and Nigerian students are interacting, Tanzanian students and Ghanaian students are interacting. Is that something that you would consider?
Definitely. That came into my mind. That's a good thing. Yes. So maybe I need to, still connect with you. So when I start, we've started that in Ghana, the mentorship program, because when I came to America and I started school, I was in mentorship program through my high school year, college. So it gave me that idea to definitely get those students to be in those programs. And then it will kind of, you mentor these kids, you give them the knowledge that they take them along through college, whatever they want, to become successful in the community as well. And then they can definitely come back to, invest into the programs to help students as well. So that's exactly what I'm looking for. Thinking about across the African nations and interacting, that would be really nice.
And I think that's awesome. In fact, as you're talking about this, I'm thinking, how about the African immigrants here actually mentoring also the Africans at home? Right. So that way they're actually keeping in touch.
That's true.
Even with their roots here as well. I didn't think about that until you said it. So that's definitely a brilliant idea that I will also be stealing from you. But we should talk about, within African mentoring as well.
Yes.
So, tell me a little bit about the education landscape in Ghana, because apart from America and England, Ghana is one of the places where Nigerian students are going in droves especially for tertiary education. What is the landscape like right now, really?
I believe it's very solid right now. I mean, a lot of students definitely. I have students from America that actually go to Ghana to do study abroad, and then there's colleges from America. There's one University of New York who has actually built an institution in Ghana that take their students to study abroad in Ghana. Wow. So I believe we always improving on those areas. So the landscape for Ghana is very solid and giving many students the opportunities.
Fantastic. And so what has been your impact so far in the past 1 year? What would you say one of your biggest achievements has been?
Thank you. Wow, that's great. Just being in Ghana for that 3 months definitely gave me a different perspective of how I can definitely impact these students, because when I was in Ghana, I didn't want to just only work with private schools or, governmental schools. I just want to work with everybody. So I took the time to go into the inner cities, the deprived areas, and also the private schools. And man, if I tell you, you can go into a room which is divided into two. I'm like, we still in Ghana? I mean, this is a one room that is divided into two, and students are actually sitting in there and learning. And some of these classes, I mean, you don't even have chairs in there. And I was like, wow. I'm not speaking bad, but when you go into like other places, like the private schools, these schools are definitely brought up in a different way. I'm like, why can't this happen across all Ghana? For many of our students, because a learning environment is what actually builds up the student. If you come to class and there's no chair, how do you want these students really focus and study? So it really kind of tight. So that was my main. When I saw that's something I wanted to improve on those areas. So I kind of connected with the education system from two different regions. So that's where I'll be working towards. And so I was able to donate a couple of stuff to the students, book resources. So now we're looking about how can we really, improve the building structures. So that's what I'll be working on now.
Because that's very critical. But I almost laughed when you talked about a class divided into two. Many Americans will not understand this, but this also happens in Nigeria because, I was also in Nigeria, July, August, and we still have this. The classrooms that have no windows, the classrooms that have no chairs, the classrooms with the broken floors, that have broken roofs, and then there are two subjects being taught simultaneously in the same class.
Oh, guess what? Sometimes it's just one teacher teaching both classes.
Yes, and there are up to 90 people there. It's really a disaster. But we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about how much really can you do with or without the government. So you're still watching Impact Africa, and I have Viola Tebah with me, and we'll be right back after this break.
Support for Impact Africa comes from Our Financial Coach, ranked among America's 11 best financial coaches on the web at ourfinancialcoach.com. United 4Kids Foundation, committed to healing the world one child at a time. On the web at united4kidsfoundation.org. Frad Consulting, planning and designing services where you are always in good company. On the web at fradconsulting.com. And from Outside in HR, pointing great companies to the future of successful HR. On the web at outsideinhrng.com. And from Wiser Advisory, Africa's leading financial advisory, training and outsourcing services firm. On the web at wiseradvisory.com. And from Nextier, the leading public sector advisory firm focused on agriculture, power, and petroleum. On the web at nextierlimited.com. And from Data Century Limited. And from Total Ascent, empowering individuals and organizations to achieve their educational and career goals. On the web at total-ascent.com. And from Brave Little Heroes, helping kids discover their inner awesome. On the web at bravelittleheroes.com. To support Impact Africa, please visit our website, impactafricaonline.com. You are listening to Impact Africa. To connect with the program, please call 144. Get ready to be inspired by the people, stories, and opportunities in Africa. We're a global community of Africans and friends of Africa with no boundaries. Together, we celebrate the continent's successes and help provide solutions to some of its greatest challenges. Impact Africa airs live every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. GMT at listenvisionlive.com. You can also catch previous episodes on iTunes and on the show's website, impactafricaonline.com. Connect with Impact Africa on Twitter and Facebook at @UImpactAfrica. Together, we'll discover that the real Africa is full of amazing talents and great opportunities. You are listening to Impact Africa. To connect with the program, please call 1-443-499-2755. That's 1-443-499-2755. You may also send an email to info@impactafricaonline.com or tweet @UImpactAfrica. Now, back to our show.
Welcome back to Impact Africa, and we have Miss Viola still with us, and we have tried to get Tes back. Hopefully, this will go smoothly, and we can hear one or two things from Millions4One. Tes, are you there? Tes, are you there?
Hi.
Okay, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, all right.
Call from.
Okay, Tes.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Hey, Tes, are you there?
No, this is
Okay.
this is not that.
Okay, so I think we lost him, but we have a caller on the phone. And who is calling us?
My name is Clark from the Midwest.
Oh, okay. Do you have a contribution about African education?
Yes. No, I just listened.
Okay. Please go ahead.
I guess my question is, you want to help people in Africa by doing the STEM, STEM, and things like that, but I guess what kind of pushback do you get from the government when I don't know if it's the same in all African countries, but in some West African countries where everything is about politics, don't they feel like you have an ulterior motive when you're trying to do things like this?
Oh, but that's a very valid question, and that was actually where I was going to start back with you after the break.
Right.
So do you want to respond to that?
No, certainly.
And I always look at Ghana and think the government is saner, but do you get any pushback from?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I was there, I made it clear that I'm not here to solve all your problems. I'm just a one person. I can contribute to the growth of education, but I can certainly not do everything. So you all have to kind of pitch in and do your part. And so that's where I think many of the governments are looking into it, because right now Ghana, and I like the fact that they're doing this right now from students from elementary school to high school. They started from elementary school to middle school, where they can go to school for free. That's good. So now they're trying to implement that for the high school students to also go to school for free. So, but then at the same time, if students are going to school, for what else are you doing with the money? Are you focusing on putting those money into building the new schools for these students to have a better place to study? So those are some of the places that the government kind of need to look at, instead of focusing more into politics and where this money gonna go into and all this stuff. So I cannot do everything on my own. Yes. They have to kind of get together and figure things out.
And you mentioned that some level of education is or was free. And one of the things that I find, especially with Nigeria, is that yes, education is free up till high school. Oh, great. However, free is not good. Their free is not working because the schools have no books, they have no infrastructure, the teachers are not paid half of the time they're on strike. Oh, yes. And so this free is not really working out. Tes, do you do some work with the government? Or do you get any interaction with government? Is Tes there?
No, this is the caller.
Oh, okay.
That's a caller.
Yes. Do you do any kind of work with Millions4One? Do you do any kind of work with the government? Or do you get any kind of support or pushback from the government?
Oh, yes.
because we were working directly with Nigeria, and so there's always a little bit of suspicion sometimes when we're trying to do a lot of things, especially in the schools or primary schools. But yes, we have, but the goal is actually to kind of explain to them, show that we've worked on before, and hopefully we do get some breakthrough sometimes. But yes, we always do have pushback from governments just because of suspicion and so.
And that suspicion is big, because my colleagues and I at United for Kids Foundation, we also have this pushback. There was an episode where we were sharing school bags for back to school, and some government officers came and drove away our volunteers. They said, "Oh, this state belongs to this political party. You must be from another political party for you to be sharing school bags for children who don't have any." So this is the level that some of these governments are operating on, and it's really it's a nightmare. So Bukola from Millions4One, I'm very glad that you could join us, because we couldn't really get to speak with Tes. But let me ask you a question I was trying to ask him, which was, about integrity. This is an issue. People don't trust you. They think, oh, really, this guy is spending my money trying to buy first-class tickets to go visit his family in Nigeria. And also, there's also, on your side, you're thinking, these people who are telling me there's something wrong in Nigeria, are they telling me the truth? How do you all deal with this issue of integrity?
Well, basically, we're a 501c3 organization here in the United States, so we have to have that integrity, otherwise we'll just withdraw that from us. But what we've been able to do over time is, first, when we approach a school, and I will answer the other one where people comply with you away. When we approach a school, we actually first introduce ourselves, then let them know what we're coming to do, let them know what our background is. If they want it, fine. If they don't want it, that's fine. Now, for sourcing of funding, basically we do have most of our volunteers within the United States that fund the organization. Now, for every project we want to do, we scrutinize it, we make sure everything to the letter, we can explain it. And so each time we handle the project and we conclude the project, we actually also have to explain how we spent the money. We have our data, we have everything, and at the end of the year, we always have an end of year report, which we send to all members of donors and all that. To a large extent, had so much problems with donors about integrity, because they see what we're doing, and they see the hard work that it takes to get things done in Nigeria. Yeah, there might be one or two people that would think, oh, what are you doing with it? I mean, how can you explain to us how you get this done? Again, our results will prove over time to those type of people. But we try as much as possible to make sure we're not there yet, but our goal is to make sure at least 90-something% of our funds that we receive go directly into the project and not into administration. So that's our goal. And we're almost there, but we're not there yet. So we're trying to prove that as long as we can maintain that, we can always stand by integrity of doing the job and getting it done well.
Excellent point. And, as somebody who also manages a nonprofit myself, I understand, that 10% that you're still struggling with. That 10% is not your salary. That 10% is not, your any perks that are going to you, but they're just some costs that go with running this. You want to ship something to Nigeria, you have to pay. You want to, design a flyer, you perhaps sometimes have to pay. So that's a big deal. Before I go back to Bukola on the phone, let me ask you, non-profit work, regardless of how big or how small, is personal.
Yeah.
There are people who want to see you and see if they can trust you. Right. There are people who want to hear you and hear whether they can hear the trust in your voice. Right. Does this invade your personal space? Or is it just part of the territory? Because some people cannot separate Viola from the non-profit organization.
You should. I believe that you should definitely separate those two things. As a non-for-profit,
you do, but some people can't.
Yeah. You should definitely separate those two together. When I started definitely. My friend was like, "You definitely need to put your life aside and focus on this. This is not about you. It's about that." Yeah. So you have to definitely create the line between those two things. Just say, "This is a non-for-profit organization. I'm gonna run it as a business, and then focused on the goals that I've set that I'm going to do, and it's not all about you." So you have to create that line between them.
And the reason why, and Bukola, I'm going to let you talk about this in a little bit, but this is what happened to me. Okay. So we have United for Kids Foundation, which is not about me, which is not about my colleagues. However, this is when I knew that people can't really separate the two. We had a gala in DC in 2013, and people bought tickets to come, and there was somebody who I knew who bought a ticket to come, and she didn't show up. But of course, we still gave her a tax receipt for her donation, and of course, her money still went to the foundation. But the next couple of months, I wrote a book, and I launched the book in DC. This is me who wrote a book. And she came, and she really had an issue with the fact that she had to pay for my book. So I didn't understand that. So I said, why should I give you the book free of charge? She said, because I bought a ticket to the ball and I didn't come, and so this book is free. I said, what does a finance book have to do with United for Kids Foundation? So people cannot separate these two.
Two different things.
It can work to your advantage, but it can also be a disadvantage because people who know you, trust you, and they want to help you. But some people who then just can't, they can't stop relating the two together. Bukola, do you all have an experience with this?
Well, yes. I mean, there's always issues like that, but most times with Millions4One, we don't really encounter a lot of that because I used to be as president. Currently, I'm an advisor on the organization, and the current president is one of our co-founders. So if we're doing something and someone comes, they know that the money is not going to micro us, and there's no way I even handle the finances. So what we were doing, you're doing it for the organization. So we do have that spread out. I don't even touch finances. I don't even know anything about finances because I'm giving a report. So when you see me doing, I do other things. I do a lot of other things. There is no way we can mix both of them. And the way to get that probably out there is to make sure that each time we receive finances, and that's what we try to do, for one, each time we receive finance, we let you know what we receive the finances for, and this is what is being used. You're not going to see me launch a book tomorrow and say that's part of small, and that is not. That is doing that. Okay, so we receive it, we show you pictures, we put it on our website, we show pictures of what we've done. We put it on our website and say, hey, this is what we use. $1,000, $2,000 we receive. Put it on for this project, and this is what is being used for. Now, if I win the lottery tomorrow, it's definitely not part of that money.
If you win the lottery, let me send you my phone number. You probably see my number right now. But this is what we also do this. We've been around for 12 years.
Oh wow!
And we're 501c3. I'm a CPA, so everything gets out there. And so, but somehow I still find that people still have this issue, even though they can go to the Facebook page, they can go to the website, and but they just, because, it's a double-edged sword that I think you should also watch out for, and for both organizations. These kind of things can happen. People can just refuse to separate the two. It can be good, and it can also be bad. But I have 30 seconds to tell Bukola, please give us your website and tell people how they can support you in 30 seconds, please.
Oh, that's for Bukola?
Yes.
Our website is www.millions4one.org. That's MILLIONSFORONE. I'm sorry. .org.
Okay.
Millions4one.org. On the main page, you can navigate through it and quite interactive.
Fantastic. And we will also send this out via our Twitter account as well, at U Impact Africa. How can people connect with you? Quickly.
Facebook, social media is always the best. So definitely follow us on Facebook /T.E.I Education Initiative, and also Twitter at T.E.I Education Initiative. And you can also follow us on Instagram, T.E.I Education Initiative.
And we will send that out as well. I want to thank both of you for joining us today, and I want to wish you all the best. And I hope that in spite of our technical difficulties, that people have heard what you have to say about Millions4One, and also, of course, heard what you have to say about T.E.I Education Initiative, and that most importantly, that you decide to do something. Those who are watching, those who are listening, you have a duty to do something. This guest that I've had here today, they're here, they're not home, and they're doing something. So I hope you will too. Before we wrap up the show, I want to talk about some opportunities that are available for those of us abroad, especially those of us in the US, that we can take advantage of. There's the Nigeria Dialogue Gala Night, and there are 3 nights that are coming up, and these gala nights are supposed to help build the country. There are going to be many important speakers. Dr. Okonjo-Iweala, the Minister for Finance, Ogbeni Aregbesola, the Governor of Osun State, Governor Amosun of Ogun State, Governor Amechi of Rivers State, Professor Pat Utomi, and Honorable Abike Dabiru-Erewa, and Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila. There will be an event in Atlanta on September 12th, Houston September 13th, Baltimore September 20th. If you want to RSVP for this event, please go to NigeriaDialogueUSEvents.com. NigerianDialogueUSEvents.com. I will be there in the one in Baltimore, so I hope to see you all. Also, African Dev Jobs plus Cowries and Rise will host a panel on China and development in Africa. What China's engagement with Africa means for the development sector and professionals. This is going to be in DC at Impact Hub, and it's going to be holding on September 18 from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. There will be Ambassador David Sheen, Kelly Page, and Winslow Robertson will be among the panelists. You can RSVP at africandevjobs.com/ChinaAfricanDev. We will also tweet out this information as well. Then there's something that's very dear to my heart. Africans in medicine are now accepting donations to contain the Ebola virus and outbreak in West Africa. This is your chance to do something. There's so much noise going on, about this whole Ebola thing, and people are feeling helpless. What can we do? And we cannot wait for the big countries to rescue us. We need to rescue ourselves. So please go to africansinmedicine.org, africansinmedicine.org to put in, your heart in this game as well. And finally, the African American Institute is presenting the State of Education in Africa conference on September 9th at 8 a.m. So you can go to aaionline.org. We've talked a lot about education in Africa, today. There will be some panelists from Ghana, from Nigeria, from New York as well, there. So this is something that we should try and, make it there. Let's see what is wrong, what and how can we fix the education sector. So aaionline.org is where to go. I want to thank you so much for watching today, for listening, and for coming into the studio, and for calling in, Bukola. And I hope that those who have watched this and listened to this today will do something in spite of the distance between us and the continent. And I will see you again next week. And until then, please keep impacting Africa. Good morning.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Africa. Please join us again next Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. GMT at listenvisionlive.com. Have a good week and keep impacting Africa. Support for Impact Africa comes from Our Financial Coach, ranked among America's 11 best financial coaches on the web at ourfinancialcoach.com. United 4Kids Foundation, committed to healing the world one child at a time. On the web at united4kidsfoundation.org. Frad Consulting, planning and designing services where you are always in good company. On the web at fradconsulting.com. And from Outside in HR, pointing great companies to the future of successful HR. On the web at outsideinhrng.com. And from Wiser Advisory, Africa's leading financial advisory, training, and outsourcing services firm. On the web at wiseradvisory.com. And from Nextier, the leading public sector advisory firm focused on agriculture, power, and petroleum. On the web at nextierlimited.com. And from Data Century Limited. And from Total Ascent, empowering individuals and organizations to achieve their educational and career goals. On the web at total-ascent.com. And from Brave Little Heroes, helping kids discover their inner awesome. On the web at bravelittleheroes.com. To support Impact Africa, please visit our website, impactafricaonline.com. Get ready to be inspired by the people, stories, and opportunities in Africa.